Hello, this is IK Tutors, and we are here with a conversion problem. So let's go ahead and get started. Right. So what they're asking us to do is convert 18 miles to kilometers. Well, let's practice our identification first. We know it's a word problem. We have a general approach to any word problem, which we have on the previous slide here, right? Right here, it tells you any word problem, we're going to translate into the equation and then solve. That's one, and then solve for the solve the equation. Right. So in order to do that, we first have to identify what type of word problem it is. So let's pretend we don't know what type of word problem it was. And how do we identify it? We simply look at the numbers. And we use this table down here, right? We look at the numbers, and if we see it's pairs of units, like liters and quarts, then we know it's like a unit conversion problem. If we see it's percent, or the word of or out of or the word percent, we know it's percent problem. If we see proportion notation like these two dots or the words percentage of error, we know it's a proportion problem. If we see the capital F and the capital C in degrees, we know it's a temperature problem, right? Once we identify what type of problem it is, it's very easy to go ahead and use the specific technique to set up our equation. So let's go ahead and look at the numbers and see what we have on that problem. Okay, we're looking at the numbers, and what do we see? We see pairs of units, right? We see kilometers and we see miles. So it confirms this is a unit conversion problem. Now we know how to deal with unit conversion problem. If you don't, I took the liberty of writing this card over here. It's just a simple three-step technique. The first thing we're going to do is write the conversion factor. So let's do step number one. Write the conversion factor between what the two units that we see or the pairs of units that we see in the problem. So this is going to be 1. Let's put a 1 there. All right. So it turns out, we're going between miles and kilometers. It turns out that 1 mile is approximately 1.61 kilometers. Okay, so that takes care of step one. Now let's go to step two. It says put it in fractional form. So what are they talking about? What's it? We're talking about the conversion factor here. We cannot use it. It's one thing equals another. That's the equivalence form. We can't use it in that form. In order to use it in arithmetic, we have to have a fraction. So let's go ahead and put it in fractional form, and which is really great because we have two numbers in a conversion factor, two numbers in a fraction. The only thing we really need to know is which number goes on top. And for conversions, the problem tells us whatever unit we want to end up with goes on top. So it's the problem says convert 18 miles to kilometers. So we want to end up with kilometers, so kilometers has to go on top. So we put 1.61 kilometers on the top of the fraction, and the other thing goes on the bottom. All right, so that takes care of step two. Last and final step, we simply multiply what we got in step two by what's given. So what's given in the problem? It says convert 18 miles. 18 miles is what's given. So we're going to multiply that 18 miles by our conversion factor we got in step two. And here you see we have our equation. All we have to do is solve this now. How do we solve? We see that we're multiplying by a fraction. That means that we have to follow the rules for fractions, right? With fractions, if there's a fraction involved in any equation, all the numbers must be written in fractional format. So we're simply going to put a 1 underneath this 18 miles to get it in fractional format. Once we've done that, the only other fraction rule we have to follow is we have to, when we're multiplying two fractions, we have to multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, and whatever matches in the top and bottom, whether it be units or factors of numbers, they're gonna, if they match, they cancel each other out. And here we see you have a miles in the top that matches with the miles in the bottom, so they cancel each other out. So we're just going to end up with the kilometers on top. Now we're going to go ahead and do the numbers and multiply across the bottom and multiply across the top. So on the bottom, we have 1 times 1 is 1. On the top, we have 18 times 1.61, which gives us about 28.98 kilometers. And finally, anything divided by 1 is itself. So our answer is 28.98 kilometers. And there we go. Okay. All right. So I hope that helped. If it did, please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.